strangers of Venice stay the meet. Go in and weep not all things shall be well. And again, the dramatic irony that we see throughout this play is clear, because we as an audience are very aware that all things shall not be well, and we know what is coming, what Desdemona's fate is. And they exit, Desdemona and Emilia, and we get these final this final short exchange between Rodrigo and Iago. Now, I'm not going to read through this exchange. I'll allow you to do that. The reason for that is because this exchange, like many of the other exchanges between Rodrigo and Iago in the play, are filled with very, very similar techniques and similar writer's craft elements to note. First of all, it's a lively prose exchange, so that, as always, that bathos provides a bit of relief for the audience. Rodrigo is often played as a very, very comic character. He is the rich gull, the idiot, the simpleton, not a sympathetic character at all. And part of it comes from these pathetic laments that we see at the very beginning. He says, "I do not find that thou dealst justly with me." You're being unfair to me. It's not fair. So that's that pathetic lament. But and so we see Rodrigo's innocence and naivety and stupidity as something of comic relief. But also remember, Rodrigo was Iago's first victim, so we're allowed to see that story continue to play out, and Iago to continue to manipulate and direct Rodrigo. So it's just another opportunity for the audience to see Iago's power. And we see it in lots of ways. So if you see at the start, you get this pathetic lament, and Rodrigo goes on to say that he's been treated most unfairly by Iago, and he now suspects his motives. He says, "Faith, I have heard too much, for your words and performances are no kin together." So really he's one of the first, apart from Emilia, to suspect Iago in the play and to say, actually, what you're saying and what you're doing don't seem to match, perhaps guessing that he isn't honest Iago, in quotation marks. And if you see at the beginning, let's go back. If you see at the beginning, sorry, I got lost here. If you say at the beginning, it's Rodrigo that has the longer speeches. Can you see? Here, Rodrigo's longer speech, here and here. And Iago has these very, very short utterances in between, very dismissive, saying everything's okay, stop complaining, it's all fine. And we find out here that not only has Iago been using Rodrigo, remember the quote, "Put money in thy purse, put money in thy purse." He's been using him to help him in his plots, but he's also been stealing from him. So there is something, a revelation here, that Iago is not just naive, but a common thief too. He says, we find out that Rodrigo has been giving Iago jewels to give to Desdemona that she's never passed on. So we get this dismissive very well, very well. And however, when Rodrigo says that he's going to reveal all to Desdemona, he says, "I tell you, 'tis not very well. I will make myself known to Desdemona." At that point, there's a shift. And can you see from then on, it's Iago who has the long speeches and Rodrigo who is suddenly back to being the one who is being manipulated and convinced. And that shift, that structural shift that we see in the length of speeches shows the power dynamics again. That Iago initially is dismissive, but then he takes control of the situation and turns on his charm and convinces Rodrigo once again. And by the end of this exchange, we have Rodrigo maybe not fully convinced with "I will hear further reason for this," but at least convinced enough to follow Iago. And again, that is the power that I just mentioned of Iago, the power of his language, and some of the techniques that we see. First of all, why now I see there's metal in thee. So we see flattery, one of the rhetorical devices that we've seen throughout. Building empathy, give me thy hand. I grant indeed it has not appeared, and your suspicion is not without wit and judgment. So he tells Rodrigo that he understands him, that he's right. He says, but yet I protest. I have dealt most directly with the affair. So he's insisting his innocence. You also have the tricolon here. I mean, purpose, courage, and valor that this knight show. So he's trying to persuade Rodrigo. Also, there's always an element that he seems to be questioning Rodrigo's manhood and masculinity to force him to help him. And he makes empty promises. If thou the next night following enjoy not Desdemona, take me from this world with treachery and devise engines for my life. So if you haven't got Desdemona by tomorrow, if you aren't enjoying her, and there is always this language when referring to women that you need to bear in mind, enjoying them as jewels and baubles, as possessions. If you're not enjoying her, then you can call me treacherous. And so you get these empty promises again, and questioning his manhood when he says, if you dare do yourself profit and aright. So all of these things, essentially what Iago is telling Rodrigo is that Othello has been called away to Mauritania, and if he goes, he's going to take Desdemona with him. And he's going to do that because Cassio's been given Othello's place, which Rodrigo doesn't question. So if they want Desdemona to stay, they need to kill Cassio, and that's what Iago tries to persuade him to do. And by the end, he is half persuaded. And so we see again how easily convinced Rodrigo is. So we're going to leave it there, and I will be back shortly to go through the final scene, Act 4, Scene 3, which is a nice short